Hello everyone, my name is Faye, and in this particular video, we're going to talk about function exercises. You can see this slide in your LMS called Week 2 for Algorithm and Programming 2. So, we're going to dive to the first question about time conversion. So, what I always do is to read the first sentence of the question, and after that I go to input output, and if the problems give explanation about example input and output, I go there. So this is how my problem solving to solve a question or problem. So write a program to convert time given the value hours, minutes, seconds to total in seconds. Okay, so from that only one sentence we already know what we need to do, but if we read again, input three non-negative integers, the hours, minutes, and seconds. Output an integer, the conversion value. So after that, we see the table, it will see 0, 3, 10 for the inputs, and converted value is 190 seconds. So we're gonna convert first. So this is how human do this. We're gonna convert the hours to seconds, and after that we're gonna convert the minutes to seconds, and all the conversion values will be get the total, and after that we plus all of it, we get the total amount of seconds we got from the input. So this question didn't give you explanation on how to convert hours to seconds, minutes to seconds, maybe because the maker of this question already think that you guys pass Algorithm and Programming 1, which is you will be familiar with conversion and everything like that. So if you want to convert hours to seconds, you need to times it by 3,600. And if you want to convert it from minutes to seconds, you need to times it by 60. So I think this is how I'm gonna explain to you. I'll give you the explanation about my code with time conversion. So as you already guys know, if you watched the previous video about our course function, you will know that a function will have the function name, and after that inside it you will have parameters, which is the variables you need to operate it with the function, and all the parameters have its data types. Okay, so in our function time conversion, we have three parameters, which called h, m, and s, that has a integer data types. And after that, what is important in function, that function is returning something. That something has a data type. So if you guys see here, we have integer data types for return type. Okay, so the algorithm. This is how simple the algorithm works. You just need to times the hour by 3,600, you plus it with minus times 260 and plus it with your seconds. And maybe because this is the first question we go dive to, so maybe I explain to you a little bit more specific. We have return here. You will always have a return in a function. So if your code, you write a code and you want to make a function that needs to return something and you didn't have return, it will become error. So if I just delete this, it will say error that say it's not used first, and after that, it needs a return type. Okay, if you give it the return, it use it as a return value. Okay, so the biggest thing I got problem with function procedures and recursive everything like that is I know how to make the function, but I don't know how to call it. That's my past problem. So I think you guys still needs to see about your main program, even though sometimes you in your test or your exam, you only needs to make the function and fill the blank spot. I think I advise to you to always make a main program for your exercises. So in this main program, we call the function. In algorithm and programming 2, you already know about the basic concept about operation and everything like that. If you pass Alpro 1, you will understand that algorithm and programming 2 is all about to make your code clean. Okay, so in this code, it's clean because my main is only input, is only writes a code to get input from users, and it's only call a function, which is time conversion. And last but not least, it's printing my value. Okay, so I always advise people to use printf because it says the term printf is from print format. So what you do here, you can write your sentences or everything. And if you have a variable that you need to print, you just say its data types and where you want to print it. So here you have a %d, which is for integers, and the variables I want to print in this %d is conversion value. Okay, so this is my main and this is my code. That's for the first question. I hope you guys can understand it. So, and maybe before we go to the next question, we have this, how you call a function in line 10. It says time conversion, hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so if your function have 3 parameters, you need to call it with 3 variable inside the function, okay? Same amount of parameters. Let's say I delete these seconds, okay? It will set errors and not enough arguments in call to time conversion. You have integer, but you want integer. You need 3 integers, which is the last seconds, okay? So just for sake of approve, I'm gonna try to run this code. 105. You get 3,605 seconds. Okay, so that's for the first question. I take a little bit long time for explaining one question in the first because I want to give you understanding about the function, even though even more deeply. Okay, so let's go to the second question. It says triangle. Write a function. Check whether the 3 values given can form the side of valid triangle. Inputs 3 integer with supposed to be length of each side of triangle, and outputs a text triangle if they form a valid triangle or not triangle otherwise. So this question, and in many questions, in your slides exercises, I see that not every question give you the explanation on how to get the output right away. So in this question is only say like this is all the information you can get, and I advise you to do research outside the question. So in this triangle question, what he wants to do is to check if it's triangle. How do we check if it's triangle? You guys will understand triangle inequality theorem, which states that the sum of 2 side lengths of triangle is always greater than the third side. Okay, so if you have a triangle, you just sum 2 random sides, and if the sum is smaller than the other side, which is the third side, it's a triangle. If you see in my function, this is how simple I get. So after I do my research, it doesn't need to do greater or equal like this, no. It's explicitly said that it needs to be greater. It's not greater or equal. Okay, so that's my function. It has 3 parameters, and as you can see, and before in our previous question, we have integer value to return. In this function, I return boolean, and after that, in my main, what I do is call the function and check and using the function. And so always try to do this, okay, only in your main, focused on getting inputs, use the function, and do outputs. Sometimes you even made all of this become a function. You get inputs in a function, you outputting it from a function. So in your main, it's only calling other function. It doesn't have any logic in your main beside of that. So this is my triangle. So if it's a triangle, I print is a triangle, else I print not a triangle. As you can see, 3 parameters on my function, line 22, and 3 variables I use inside the function x, y, and z. And another fact for you that parameters is a local variables that you already know. It's a local variables that only happen in the line, only happen on those function. So x, y, z here is not a same value here, okay? It's a local variable you use inside your function like that, okay? So that's a fact for you, and let's go jump to the next question about discount. So discount, right? A function, because I see this is how my brains works, okay? I see the question is little bit it takes time to read every question. So if I do this, I jump to input and output, two values, an integer, the total purchase, and a boolean, okay, the membership status, and integer, the bill to be paid by the customer. Okay, so we needs to calculate the discount, and after that, we needs to calculate how much the customer will pay. And after this, we see the table that it has a purchase and the member status, true or false, okay? So after this, I go back to the question, write a function to compute the discount base, blah, blah, blah. If the total purchase, this sentence is what it needs to read. If the total purchase is bigger than 1 million rupiahs and she is a member, then she'll get 10%. If total purchase is also bigger than 1 million, but she is not a member, then she will be given discount 5% only. Okay, so for a fact, for your cautions, this question is wrong. It said that bigger than 1 million rupiah, which is not true. The input and output example saying otherwise. It's not 1 million rupiah, but 100,000 rupiah. Okay, so larger than 100,000 rupiah. That's for this discount. I think in Alpro One we all familiar with this particular question. So as you can see, I made two function here. Okay, I made two function, discount and paid. My advice, if you can break your code into smallest function possible, it will be a clean code, it will be great code. I will see it as a clean code and everyone see it also as a clean code. So if you can break down your code into the smallest thing you can see, it is good code, okay? So I made two function here. First, I made the function to count the discount, how many discount I will get. So if it's bigger than 100,000 and the member is true, it will return 10 and it will return 5 if the member is false. That's what I do. And if you, as you can see, I have a outside if statement. I have written. So what this do? If a function needs to return something, so it needs a condition for all inputs. Okay, so if the inputs not go in the first if statement, it goes to the second one. So what if this two statement is false? It go to the last one, which is returning 0. It has no discount. Okay, so if you guys don't believe me, I delete this and you will see some error thing here, missing return. Okay, so I just add return 0 and this is what it does. Okay, and I made separate function for paid, which is calculate how many I pay as a customer seeing my discount. Okay, so in my paid, I have P for purchase and I have disc for discount. So if you can imagine the main, it will be good. This is just a simple logic where you minus your actual purchase with your discount that you will get. And if discount not 0, which is you have a discount, which is you don't have a discount, you return your actual paid with your discount. But otherwise, you returning your purchase, okay? No discount. So if you can imagine the main, how the main will be, it's really great for your for your faster code. So you can write code faster if you can imagine it, if you can compile it in your brain. So that's why you guys always get tracing and everything like that. So in my brain, I'm thinking about I will have a variable to be assigned with discount, and after that, I will call the paid function with the discount value. That's my main in my brain. Oh, and that's what I do. Only inputs, outputs, and calling function. That's my main. Okay. So that's about our third question. Let's jump to the fourth question about Fibonacci here. I think you guys really boring seeing Fibonacci because this is always show up everywhere. But something's unique with this Fibonacci. If you see here in the notes. Oh, let me explain to you about Fibonacci first, okay? Fibonacci is a sequence of number that the third value is always the submission from the second last and the first last from that number. So if you have three sequence like this in line 3, 0, 1, 1, the last number, which is 1, gets from previous 2 and previous 1 submission. 0 plus 1 equals to 1. This 2 equals to 1 plus 1, okay? Previous 2 and previous 1. That's how you do Fibonacci sequence. Okay. But something's unique in this Fibonacci sequence. Sometimes if you input 4, the output will be 2, which is the number in position 4 in your Fibonacci sequence. In this particular question, what we see is input 1, output 0, input 2, output 1, input 3, output 2, input 4, output 4, which is, as you can see in the notes, it submission all the sequence number. Okay, so my brain on first thinking about this question will be, I will make a Fibonacci sequence by itself, see if I can do printing 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, etc., like that. So after I can do that, I just need a temporary variable to do submission from those sequences. Okay. What I come up with the code, there's many variation about Fibonacci using loops, but this is what I come with. Okay, so I only have one parameters and I have X and Y. So Fibonacci always have a two initial variable, and sometimes it can start from 0, sometimes it starts with 1. Okay, so that's what you modify from your Fibonacci. This is my initial value. As you can see, I have result and time. Why do I have two outside variable like this? Because this is how my code works. Okay, so if you just want to know about what numbers in position 4 in your Fibonacci, you doesn't need these two variables, result and time. You only need temporary variables. Okay, but because we want to do summation, addition to all the sequence number, we need result to store the value. So in this code, this line from 29 to 31, it's a Fibonacci creator algorithm. And in line 32 is storing the result value. Okay, so that's for my core code inside this loop. As you can see, why do I start from 3, not start from 2? Let's see from before this code. We have if and 1 return x. Why do I do that? Because I have this. If the input is 1, the return will be 0. Okay, return x is 0. Result, I say it x plus y because I want to, okay, if you see this question, you will have this. N is when n equals to 1, and this when it's equals to 3. When n is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 upwards, this is the code where will it started. But as you can see, if I have 2 here, it will doesn't go inside the loops. It will go to the last line, line 34, and it's returning the result. That's why I have the first is a result x plus y to initialize the result value. Okay, initializing is not always 0, it's not always 1. You can initialize it with your purposes. Okay, so this is my Fibonacci. Maybe you guys will have another version of approaching Fibonacci, but this is how I approach Fibonacci with loops. Okay, and this is my main, like usual, inputs, outputs, and calling the function Fibonacci. Okay, that's for our fourth question. And now we go to the fifth question about permutation. Okay, so permutation, if you understand permutation and combination, the first number will always larger than the last number. But in this particular question, it says the third is x permute y if x larger or equals y, or y permutes x when x is smaller than y. So to imagine this permutation, if you have two values, it will always do permutation. It will always do permutation, swapping the value of permutation. If you guys didn't believe me, permutation is always, the first number is always bigger. Okay, the first number will always bigger to the second value. Why is that happening? It has its own theory, but let me give you permutation calculator if you didn't believe me. And let's calculate the first object is 3 and the second object is 4, which is the objects is smaller than the sample. Okay, is enter n bigger than r bigger than 0. Okay, so the n here needs always be larger than the r. Okay, that's how permutation works. But in this question, as I say before, it swap the value. So that's what the modification for our permutation. As you can see, permutation is n factorial divided by n minus r factorial. So you need factorial function. Okay, you can make this function inside permute, but I think it's not a clean code. So make a two separate function. As I say before, if you can break down your code into smallest function you could possibly do, this is what will you get. I create two function, and my main, as usual, I scan, I print. That's all I do, and calling the function. Okay, so the question wants us to printing factorial x, factorial y, and the permute value. That's what I do in my printing, factorial x, factorial y, permute x, y. So let's run this permutation. 1 7 1 7. Okay, 1 5040 and 7. That's what I do in my code. Okay, for this video, that's the end of the exercise. I advise you to always do exercise, expand the question. Let me give you example. Okay, this discount is a simple question, simple exercise, small exercise. So try to add more twist to the question. Maybe if there is a member, range of purchase minimum, or maybe status. It's not just a member or not, but maybe if you have a employees card, or maybe students card, students ID, employees ID. If you have that, you have get more discount, something like that. Always try to expand it. This is what I do in learning algorithm 1 and algorithm 2, sorry. What I do is always try to expand a question, because let's be honest, the slide exercises is not that hard, and it needs to be harder in your own brain, and that's what we do as a student. Okay, that's for our function exercise video. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.